Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jody, and on my channel I talk about Broadway and books. And in today's video, I will be continuing my Broadway show series where I talk about every Broadway show I ever got to see. So normally in the series on my channel, I go over a few things, such as who was in the cast and my performance, who was on the creative team, how I liked the show, and anything interesting I might find in the playbill. So without any further ado, let's get on to today's show. So today I'll be talking about the 35th Broadway show I ever got to see, which was the Broadway revival of Little Shop of Horrors. So I did end up seeing the show a total of 3 times on Broadway before it closed. Today I'll just be talking about my first time seeing the show, which, like I said, was my 35th Broadway show. So I saw the show for the first time in August of 2003 at the Virginia Theater. And in case you didn't know, this theater has since rechanged its name to the August Wilson Theater, which will soon be the home to the new Broadway revival of Cabaret. So now I'll get on into what is in the playbill. So here's a production photo of Hunter Foster as Seymour, Carrie Butler as Audrey, and then of course there's Audrey too. And then I'll get to the page with the headshots of everyone in the cast. Okay, so now this is usually the point of the video where I'll go over any performers' names who I recognize from having seen them in other Broadway shows since I saw them in Little Shop, or maybe shows I saw them in before Little Shop. So I'll get to that now. Hunter Foster was in the show. He played Seymour. This is actually the very first Broadway show I ever saw Hunter Foster in. He's done several Broadway shows since. I know for sure I saw him in The Bridges of Madison County. But I was trying to think of the other shows I had seen him in. I want to say he was in Hands on a Hard Body musical. He's done others, and I feel like I've seen him in more, but those are the only ones I can remember off the top of my head. Yeah, but he was really great in the show as Seymour. Carrie Butler was in the show. She played Audrey, and at this point in time, I had seen Carrie Butler twice in Hairspray before I saw her in Little Shop. But she's just one of my favorite Broadway performers. She's done so many Broadway shows, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I've seen her in every Broadway show she's ever been in since Hairspray, except for when she was in a revival of The Best Man play on Broadway. I didn't see that, but I know she was in that. But like, she was in one of my favorite shows ever, Xanadu, and she's just such an amazing performer. She was really great as Audrey in this production, but also like, you know how like you're in the audience and you're watching like the show, from your seat, and you're just like watching the performances, and you can tell like certain people are just like made to perform on stage, and this is what they're meant to do. She's definitely one of those performers. She's just made to do theater, and she's just so amazing at it. One of the best Broadway talents I've ever seen on the Broadway stage. But yeah, Douglas Sills was in the show. He played the dentist. He was absolutely fantastic as a dentist. I did see him years later in a musical called War Paint in 2017, but he's done several Broadway shows. I never got to see him in The Scarlet Pimpernel, but he did that show a few years before this show, and I always wanted to see, my mom always wanted to see that show, but we never saw that show. It's actually, I believe, the show to play right before Saturday Night Fever played at the Mid-Scott Theater. But yeah, it was pretty cool to get to see him in a show finally, and he was so good as a dentist. Rob Bartlett was in the show. He played Mr. Mushnick. Michael Leon Woolley was in the show. He was the voice of Audrey too. Carla J. Hargrove was in the show. I believe years later I saw her in Hairspray, and so that's pretty cool. Trisha Jeffrey was in the show. DeQuina Moore was in the show, and years later I saw her in Legally Blonde on Broadway, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. She was part of the original cast of that show, and I believe she was also part of the original cast of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Yeah, 2 great shows, and the whole cast was just, this was a really, really, really great cast. Like, can't say enough great things. Everybody was so perfect in the show. Now I'll talk on who was on the creative team, point out any names I may recognize from having them seen worked on other Broadway shows since I saw Little Shop, or maybe shows before Little Shop. So I'll do that now. Books and lyrics were done by Howard Ashman. Music was done by Alan Menken. This was such an amazing songwriting team. They wrote the scores for many Disney films that you might like, such as Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and obviously Little Shop of Horrors. But yeah, amazing songwriting team. The score in this show is definitely one of the best scores like a show I've ever seen. The songs are just like Oh, so incredibly good songs you like just don't forget. You remember even years after I've seen the show. It's a score that I just continue to love and love and love, and the songs are just absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Kathleen Marshall was the choreographer, and I think up to this point she worked on the Broadway revival of Kiss Me Kate, and she was a Broadway choreography for that. Broadway choreographer for that, and then she's done so many Broadway shows since she did Anything Goes. She was the Broadway. She directed the show and did the choreography for that show. She also did a show called In Transit. I never saw that show, but for some reason I remember that she worked on that show. I never saw it, but she's done other Broadway shows, obviously. But yeah, she was the choreographer for this show, and Jerry Zaks was the director. He's worked on so many Broadway shows: the 2017 Broadway revival of Hello Dolly, A Bronx Tale. I think he did also the 2004 Broadway revival of Acacia Falls, which I'll eventually be talking about in this series on my channel. But he's done so many Broadway shows, and he did a great job with this show because the direction of the show was just perfect. Now I'll get on to how I like the show. How did I like Little Shop of Horrors on Broadway? I loved it. I can't say enough great things about it. I saw it 3 times, so I couldn't wait to return to see the show again and again and again. Yeah, this is just one of those shows where everything just came together just right, and it worked so well. And it was really cool to get to see this show because I never saw it when it played off Broadway. I only had seen the movie, and I was such a fan of the movie, so I was like so incredibly excited when I heard this was coming to Broadway because I just love this show. It's very much a campy show, and it has a great score, and it's just like really great. You know, I'm very thankful I got to see this production because, in case you didn't know, this production almost did not happen. And so many Broadway shows, they have an out-of-town tryout. This Broadway show did that as well. They did a tryout in Florida, but the thing that was different about the tryout in Florida versus the Broadway production was it had almost an entirely different cast. Hunter Foster is the only person that remained in the show between the out-of-town tryout and the Broadway production. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but it had an entirely different cast. Alice Ripley was in the show. She played Audrey. I believe Billy Porter was the voice of Audrey too. Lee Wolkoff played Mr. Mushnick, who Lee Wolkoff originated the part of Seymour when it played off-Broadway and premiered in New York for the first time. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened. I guess the production didn't come together just right, didn't work for whatever reason. And so it was originally announced after that out-of-town tryout that the show wasn't going to come to New York anymore. And which was so disappointing because I had tickets to see it. And the show was very much planned to come to New York, like I said, after the out-of-town tryout. There was a poster in Schubert Alley promoting the show. It was in the listings for the playbills. So I was kind of devastated when I heard it wasn't going to come because I really was so excited to see this. So I would say about maybe a few weeks later, a month later, the show said it was going to come to the Broadway. It was going to play at the theater that it was announced to, originally be at, but it was going to come to Broadway with an entirely different cast with the exception of Hunter Foster. So yeah, I'm not sure what happened with the out-of-town tryout, why it didn't work, but as far as the production I did get to see, I loved this show so much. I loved the cast. The performances were just so wonderful. And it was a show that just, everything about it worked. Yeah, I love the costumes, the set, Audrey. I loved everything about it. This is a show I could see night after night. It's just one of those shows where it's just so enjoyable, so fun, so lively, so energetic, and it has showstopper numbers, and it's just a really great production. And so now I'll get on into, the musical numbers that I really like, which will probably be almost every song because this has a score that you just remember and the songs are just so memorable. Okay, obviously Little Shop of Horrors is the opening number, great number, Downtown, Grow For Me, You Never Know, Somewhere That's Green, Dentist. That's such a crazy song, I love it. Mushnick and Son, Suddenly Seymour, iconic. The Meek Shall Inherit, and Don't Feed the Plant, Somewhere That's Green. I mean, yeah, this was just this is just like an amazing score. It's like, even though so many years have gone by since I've seen the show, this is just like, they're just songs that, like, you remember. They're like iconic. Like I said, like everybody knows Suddenly Seymour and Somewhere That's Green. Even if you don't like theater and Broadway, you're probably aware of these songs. That's how, like they stand the test of time. But yeah, it's just such a wonderful show. And yeah, I mean, even if you missed seeing, this production in 2003 and 4 when it was on Broadway, you still have a chance to see Little Shop of Horrors still, because there is currently an off-Broadway production at the West Side Theater, I believe. It started around late 2019. But yeah, I wish I could see that production, especially because I believe in April the cast is undergoing several cast changes, and the cast just, I'm such a fan of the performers set to join the show. Jinx Monsoon from RuPaul's Drag Race is going to join the show as Audrey. Oh, love it. And then James Carpinello, who was in Saturday Night Fever on Broadway, is playing the dentist. And oh my gosh, I could totally picture him playing that part. But yeah, yeah, I really want to see that production. If you're not aware it was playing, you have a chance to see Little Shop on stage still. One thing I want to point out was I did see the show 3 times when I saw it in 2003 and 4. And I saw, I believe, the second preview. So, when they're doing shows and previews, they're still very much working on the show day to day. Changes are happening nonstop until the show opens, where, like, once the show opens, the show is, like, set in stone. That's what it's going to be till it closes. So when I saw the show, Audrey, as you know, Audrey starts off as a very small plant and grows and grows and grows, and at the end of the show is quite large. And when I saw the show, what they did was they had the plant on the stage, like in the center of the stage. It was very large at this point by the time the show is over. And what they did at the end of the show was Audrey, like, rise from the stage and went out midair into, like, the orchestra, like was right above sitting above everyone in the orchestra. And when I saw the show for the first time, I was sitting, like, in the mid mezzanine, so I had a really great view of this. But when they did this, it went out, like, really, really far out into the orchestra, like above all, the audience. And it was, like, crazy. I was like, this is, like, incredible. It was almost like a theme park ride for a second. It was so cool. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. It's just like a moment I remember. And then what I'm trying to get at is, when I saw the show the second time, I was sitting in the orchestra, but I don't believe the plant went out nearly as far as it did the first time I saw the show. So I guess that's something they changed from the first time to the second time I saw the show. But it was just something I remember because it was, like, so cool. But yeah. So I forgot to talk about that. So there I did. Talk about that. But before I get on to the playbill, actually after the show, I did get to meet almost everybody in the production, I believe. Not everybody, but most of the cast. I met Hunter Foster, Carrie Butler, and who else did I meet? Jaquina Moore, I met her, and get to the page. Carla J. Hargrove and Trisha Jeffrey, and I think Douglas Sills as well. Yeah. So I met, like, almost the whole cast. I didn't have like a Sharpie marker, so everyone's signature is in, like, normal pen, so it's not as visible. But yeah, this was a really fun stage tour. Everyone was so, like, nice, and it was just like, this was a really, really fun day in the city. Yeah, and I got to see a really great show and meet the cast afterwards, and it was just so much fun because it was, like, the second performance of the show, and there was just such, like the magic of theater in the air, But I'll get now on into what is in the playbill, because this was a pretty good playbill. And I've come across this several times now at this point. And I saw the show, I believe, August 30th of 2003. So it was like the day before the last day of the month. So I've come across this a few times where if I see a show at the end of the month, I am very positive at this point they changed the playbills a few days early, because I didn't see the show in September, but yet it says September 2003. So, yeah, there's that. But I saw the show in August, but now I know, because I've come across that with my Hairspray playbill and another show that I just talked about recently. I forget which other show. Gypsy? No, not Gypsy. Never mind. Okay, so at the time, Hugh Jackman was about to make his Broadway debut in a show called The Boy from Oz, which I will be talking about shortly, a few shows from now. But yeah, there's a whole article in here about him being in this production. Oh my God, this was such an amazing, amazing show, and I'm so thankful I got to see it. And yeah. Let's see, anything else? So Moving Out was on Broadway at this moment in time. There's an article about that. I think that might be it for the stuff in the playbills. Oh, there's an advertisement for The Boy from Oz. This is one of my favorite Broadway advertisements. Love it, love it, love it. And then I'll just get on into my next Broadway show that I will be talking about in this series, which will be my 36th Broadway show, which will be my second time seeing the Broadway production of The Producers, right there. So before I end this video, I almost forgot. You know, I saw this, the show that I saw when I saw Little Shop, it was a night show. I believe it was I want to say it was a Saturday night show. So before the show, I, you know, just had nothing to do really. So, I had seen Hairspray up to this point like twice, but I never got to wait the stage door. And since I had some free time, and there was like a matinee, you know, for that show, I waited at the stage door for Hairspray before I got to see Little Shop. And you know, those theaters at the time were right across the street from one another. This is at the Neil Simon, and that was at, well, you know, the Virginia Theater, which is now the August Wilson Theater. But yeah, I got to meet a lot of the cast because I didn't get to. So it was just fun because I finally got to wait the stage door for a show I really liked that I never got to before. Yeah, I got signatures from Matthew Morrison, Dick Latessa, Mary Bond Davis, Brooke Tansley, and I must have went on a day where Marissa Winokur was not in the show because I have a signature from Kathy Breyer, I believe, and Kathy Breyer was an understudy for Marissa Winokur as Tracy, and I believe that's Harvey Firestein's signature because I'm pretty positive I met him as well. And then I think at this point Jen Gambatese was back in Hairspray because she left to do a year with Frog and Toad, and then I think she rejoined the show when that show closed. So I have a signature from her as well. But yeah, it was a really fun experience, finally getting to meet some of the cast, and yeah, this was a really fun day in the city. I love this day in the city. So if you've made it to this point of the video, thank you for watching me talk nonstop probably about seeing my 35th Broadway show, which was my first time seeing the Little Shop of Horrors. So love this show. If you have a chance to see it in New York, highly recommend it because, I mean, I haven't seen that production, but Little Shop is just a great show, and I'm sure any production is absolutely wonderful, you know? So be sure to stay tuned for my next video in the series where I will be talking about my 36th Broadway show, which was my second time seeing The Producers. And if you watch this video, it's very long, and thank you so much for sticking around till the very end. So until next time, bye.